Shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom. Welcome to the Yahweh and Yahshua Speak television show. This is the Hebrew Husband and Wife Ministry. We're broadcasting from Yahweh and Yahshua's temple in Evanston, Illinois. And we're going to start out in 1 Timothy, the 4th chapter. 1 Timothy, the 4th chapter. And the title of today's sermon is The Creator's Dark Sayings of Old. The Creator's Dark Sayings of Old. 1 Timothy, the 4th chapter. So the world has a system of beliefs which the Creator said are beastly or unholy and pagan. And the beastly system was set up to substitute for His truth. 1 Timothy, the 4th chapter, and we want to read verses 1 to 2. So there is a system in the world that has been set up as a substitute for the Creator's truth. 1 Timothy 4, let's read verses 1 to 2, please.
1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 1. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall fall from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Verse 2, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron.
It says, now, Haruach, Amar expressly, specifically, explicitly, and in the latter times which we are in, some shall depart from Ha'imina, some shall depart from the Creator's truth. Why did they depart? They give heed to seducing ruachs and doctrines of devils. Well, there's only one devil, so doctrines of demons. It says they are more lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. What's that hot iron? That hot iron of lies. So the English words doctrines, where it talks about the doctrines of devils, but it's the doctrines of demons, in the Greek refers to teaching, instruction, and that which is taught in the world as a general rule intended to regulate its behavior and thought. So of course the devil himself is behind the doctrine of demons, as there's only one devil. Go to Colossians, the 2nd chapter. But it says that in these days people will depart or leave the Creator's truth because they've been seduced by these doctrines of demons. Colossians 2nd chapter. And we want to read verses 20 to 23. Colossians 2nd chapter. And verses 20 to 23 reads.
Colossians chapter 2 and verse 20. Wherefore, if ye be dead with Mashiach from the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, are ye subject to ordinances?
All right, bless the mighty God for His word. So here he is speaking to the people that have converted or given their lives to the Creator. And he's saying, wherefore, if this is a condition that you're in, you are moved with Mashiach, you're dead with Mashiach. In other words, you're supposed to have turned your back on these things. It says, from the rudiments of the world. In other words, these doctrines of demons. Why, as though kaya in the world, are you subject to the ordinances? So, as though living in the world, why are you still doing this? Why are you still being seduced? Why are you still a part of this? And there's a generation of people, and as each generation goes on, in these latter days, there's a generation of people that are becoming soft. Soft in the way of not disciplining themselves, and soft in the way of not adhering uncompromisingly to the truths that the Creator has given them. He said, so if you're dead with Mashiach from the doctrines of devils in the world, why are you living in the world like you're not dead to them? like you're still up under their ordinances, like you have no power to resist what the world is doing. Why are you becoming soft like the world? Verse 21.
Verse 21, touch not, taste not, handle not.
So he's saying, don't be a part of this at all. Don't touch it, don't taste it, don't handle it. He said in Revelation, come out of her, totally out of her. Verse 22.
Verse 22, which all are to perish with the using, after the commandments and doctrines of men.
Oh, he said because they are headed to perish. It says, which all, every single one of them, every single one of the world are to perish with the using of these doctrines of demons or the rudiments of the world. After ha-mitzvah and doctrines of men. So the doctrines of devils or doctrines of demons is the same as the doctrines of men. But it's different from the Creator's dark sayings of old. Verse 23.
Verse 23, which things have indeed a show of wisdom, in which worship and humility and neglecting of the body, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh.
So it said it puts up a good front, but it says, which things have indeed a show of kokma in will shaka, will worship. In other words, what they decide to do, they're worshiping what they will to do, what they have decided to do as a lifestyle. And again, there's a generation, and as time goes on, there are more and more soft people in a generation. And before we went on camera, I was just discussing that in the generation that I'm from, our parents disciplined us. And we went to school every day. And we did whatever they were training us to do every day. And there wasn't a day when, unless we were sick, we didn't go to school. Or we didn't go to work. Or we didn't do the things that we were doing. But there's a soft generation to where if something is too far or if any other extraneous circumstances comes up, then they put the Creator on the back burner. But they exert all this other effort to do the things that are not of the Creator, the rudiments of the world. He said, which things have indeed a show of kokma. In other words, it's showing that they're worshiping their own wills rather than letting their Creator's will be done in the earth, as he said. He said, and humility and neglecting of the body, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. So they're not even satisfied with the things they're doing, even though they're doing what they want to do, but they have the Creator mixed in a little bit with it. Go to Proverbs, the 1st chapter. So, Fossilized Customs by Lou White on page 7 says about the scripture in 1 Timothy, about the doctrines of demons. It says, doctrines of demons. The objective of the enemy of your soul is to keep you from the truth and waste your time so you'll die without it. He must distract you or lead you to think other quote-unquote smarter or quote-unquote educated men have it all figured out. It says, how they invented your world. This is what Fossilized Custom says. Camouflaged paganism. Quote-unquote doctrine means teaching. It is a Latin word related to quote-unquote document, meaning written instruction, and quote-unquote doctor, meaning quote-unquote teacher. We have all been trained or programmed from birth with various traditions, rituals, and customs. All paganism is targeted at children. Proverbs, the 1st chapter. Proverbs, the 1st chapter. Because they understand they can get children because they're gullible. And their guard is down and they're open. Proverbs, the 1st chapter. We want to read verses 29 to 31. Proverbs, chapter 1 and verses 29 to 31 reads,
Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 29. For that they hated knowledge and did not choose the reverence of Yahweh.
So here's the problem with the doctrines of devils. People like it. Matter of fact, they love it. This soft generation loves it. And they think that they have a good enough excuse, or if they feel something strong enough, then the Creator's accepting that, or accepting their softness. It says, for that they sanei yada. They hated knowledge. It's not talking about just any knowledge. It's talking about the knowledge of the Creator. The knowledge of the way that the Creator said they are to live life and order their lives. It says they did not choose the respect of Yahweh. So these are voluntary choices that they're making. As we just read the scripture, they're showing that they're worshiping their will, what they will to do, instead of the Creator's will being done in earth. He said they hate knowledge. They hate His knowledge, and they're not choosing the respect or reverence of Yahweh. Verse 30.
Verse 30. They would none of my counsel. They despise all my reproof. Verse 31. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own devices.
And he was saying they didn't even want a little bit of His counsel. He said they wanted none of my counsel, and they despise all my reproof. When I'm telling them, look, I set this weekly Shabbat up once a week for you to be at the temple. So they despise that. They have 6 days to do what they want to do, but then on that 7th day, they want that one too. It says, therefore, shall they eat of the fruit of their own way. So he said, okay, that's the choice you want to make. Then you're going to be filled with your own devices. Go to Psalms, the 78th chapter. So the Creator has uttered the dark sayings of old. So there's a difference between dark sayings and a difference between darkness. The doctrines of demons is in darkness. But here the Creator has said some dark sayings. Psalms, the 78th chapter. Psalm 78th chapter, we want to read verses 1 to 2. Psalms chapter 78 and verses 1 to 2, please.
Psalms chapter 78 and verse 1. Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. Verse 2. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old.
So here's the Creator saying He has uttered some dark sayings of old. He says, but give ear, O my am. Talking to you and I that are following Him in an uncompromised way. Give ear, O my am, to my Torah. Incline your ears to hadabarim of my mouth. And when you incline your ears, He's not just talking about hearing. He's talking about hearing and doing. There are a lot of people that come to the Creator, hear what He says. But the rubber meets the road when they cross over into doing what He says. You got that soft generation where they'll do half of it, or they'll do it half the time, and they think that's still leading them in the counsel that the Creator wants to lead them in. But He said, I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old. So Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew English Lexicon defines and their dark sayings in Psalms 78 as a perplexing saying or question, a dark, obscure utterance of something put indirectly and needing interpretation, and an enigma to be guessed. Let's go to Ezekiel, the 17th chapter. Gesenius Hebrew Chaldee Lexicon defines and their dark sayings as a difficult sentence, a parable, a song, a poem, an oracle, and a vision. Go to Ezekiel, the 17th chapter. And we want to read verses 1 to 2. Here's these dark sayings. Now we're looking at it from Brown Driver Briggs and from Jacinius Hebrew Kelly Lexicon, where the Creator said, I will open my mouth in a parable, I will utter dark sayings of old. Matter of fact, we're reading some of these dark sayings now in this book that they call the Bible, called the Scriptures, and the Word of the Creator, or the Word of Elohim. Ezekiel 17, verses 1 to 2 reads,
Ezekiel chapter 17 and verse 1. And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, verse 2, Son of man, put forth a riddle, and speak a parable unto the house of Israel.
All right, so we see here the Creator talking to his people again. And he's telling this man of Yahweh what to tell him. And Hadabar of Yahweh came unto me, Amar, Ban of Adam, put forth a riddle, and speak a parable unto Habayit of Yisrael. So he's saying the ones that want to know, they will spend their lives searching and studying and seeking to find out what the Creator is saying to them, so then they can order their lives aright and have Him order their steps in His Word. But he said, put forth this riddle. So it requires not softness, but it requires the Creator's strength. It requires diligence. It requires a goal-oriented mind. It requires going after. It requires effort. And that's why the world has this softness going on out here. And that's such a danger. You got to guard against being soft. And people think if they can make the excuse be good enough, and if they can make the line it up to where it just sounds so plausible and so reasonable, but it's not getting done what you wanted to get done. All it is you're worshiping your will, like the Creator said. You're showing people you're worshiping your will as opposed to what the Creator's saying. But He's saying, put forth this riddle and speak a parable unto the house of Israel. Have them have to put forth some effort to understand and see what I'm telling them. It's not going to be like ripe cherries just dropped into your lap. It's not going to be just you laying back in your easy chair and somebody's fanning you with the word. No, He's saying, the Creator said, I made where you're going to have to go after it. You're going to have to show me you really want this. And you're going to have to keep showing me you really want this. Proverbs, first chapter. And this is a good way. It's not a bad way, but this is the way He set it up. He said, make it into a parable, make it into a riddle. And then He said, speak it to my people. See how much they want me. See how far will they go to get and try to understand what I want them to know, what I want them to see, what I want them to tell my people in the earth. Proverbs, first chapter, and let's read verse 6, please. Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 6. Read.
Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 6. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings.
So here we understand now the Creator said he uttered these dark sayings of old. It says, to being a proverb, this is what the Creator wants you to do. He wants you to understand a proverb and the interpretation. Not your own interpretation, but the interpretation that He interprets to you and I. Hadabarim of Hakakam. These are supposed to be your words if you're wise. If you're not wise, they're not your words. And their dark sayings. And those dark sayings are what the Creator meant behind what He actually said in His Word. And He's so deep that He says one thing, but then you can get 10, 20, 30, 40, you can get a lifetime worth of meaning out of the same words that He said as He takes you deeper and deeper into His Word. Again, you can't do it with this softness. You can't do it with the softness. You got to do it with the hardness of the soldier that he's put in you, and go after this. And don't look to the right, don't look to the left, because this generation has been overtaken by softness. And you don't want to get distracted. The scripture said you need to look right on. So the 4 English words in Proverbs 1 and 6 and their dark sayings are one Hebrew word, kidal, that's C-H-I-Y-D-A-H, found at Strong's Exhaustive Concordance of the Old and New Testaments of the Bible, number 2420. Strong's defines it as being from Hebrew number 2330. It means a puzzle, hence a trick, a conundrum, sententious maxim, dark saying, dark sentence, dark speech, hard question, proverb, and riddle. So what the Creator is saying is, you can't open this up without me. I have uttered dark sayings of old, and you need me. We need Him to open these up to us. And you can look all around you and see all these people, these soft people, thinking that they can cut themselves off from the Creator in the way He said to do it. Present yourself every week at my assembly, officially, so I can instruct you and tutor you amongst a body of people. But He said, I want you to know that you need me. You can't crack this code. And they've looked at the scriptures and talked about all kind of codes and everything that are in it. And that's fine, that's well and good, but you can't crack the code and know you cracked it 100% unless the Creator cracked it for you. He made it hard. He made it dark speech. He made it a proverb and a riddle. Go to Judges, the 14th chapter. But there are people, soft people, and people that play with the way the Creator made things. We're going to look at this man in Judges, and he played with the fact that Yahweh set up his Torah and said dark sayings. And he went playing with it as a riddle instead of looking at it as a trademark and as an honor that He has bestowed upon His people in the earth, who are standing up speaking His truth, who are standing up representing His truth, who are standing up representing Him. So the Creator's dark sayings, going to Judges 14, are pure. The beastly system beliefs are impure. They're mixed and they're jumbled together. And people that are joined on to this beastly belief system in one shape or another, they got that softness, and so what they do is they go into jokes and they start playing with the sacred things of Yahweh, like this man did. Judges 14, and let's read verses 12 to 13, please.
Judges chapter 14 and verse 12. And Samson said unto them, I will not put forth a riddle unto you. If ye can certainly declare it me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 sheets and 30 change of garments. Verse 13, but if ye cannot declare it me, then shall ye give me 30 sheets and 30 change of garments. And they said unto him, put forth thy riddle, that we may hear it.
So here he is playing with a sacred, something that Yahweh has set up, a sacred order, dark sayings, a parable, a riddle. And so now he's in the midst of some strangers, some unbelievers, and he's putting it forth like it's a game. He's playing with this sacred order of business that the Creator has put in the scriptures. And if you know the end of this man, prayerfully at the end of his life, he did, make it to the kingdom, or he will make it to the kingdom. But he went through a whole lot of suffering because you can see in his demeanor, he was soft and he was joking and playing with the things of Yahweh. And we always get hurt. We always get hurt when we play with the things of Yahweh. Go to Proverbs, the 1st chapter again. So the beastly system beliefs are held by people of the world and people accepting standards that are lower than the Creator desires. Just like we looked at this man. And as the Ruach said, prayerfully he got it together before he checked out and brought down that temple on the pagans and himself. Proverbs, 1st chapter. So the beastly system beliefs are held by people of the world and people accepting standards that are lower than the Creator desires. The Creator does not desire us to be soft. Proverbs 1, but this world, the world, you look around, there's softness all around. Undisciplined. Whatever you feel like you want to do. And people pour out their heart to the job and give the job, just give them that hard 40 hours. But then when it comes to giving what he said on the weekly Shabbat to him, presenting their bodies, then they're all, what is it? They all paid out. They're all poured out. They're all tapped out. Proverbs 1 and 23 reads.
Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 23. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you.
So here he is letting us know about these dark sayings of old that he has uttered. He said, turn at my reproof. So these dark sayings are something to chain us in, or something to give us some boundaries, or something to keep us restrained, to keep us in discipline mode, to keep us out of softness. He said, turn you at my reproof. When I'm telling you, don't go to the right, don't go to the left, keep going straight. He said, turn when you hear me tell you that. He said, behold, I'm going to strengthen you. I'm going to help you do it. Behold, I will pour out my Ruach unto you. I will make Yada my Dabarim unto you. So I'm going to give you some understanding about how to do this thing and how it will become easier for you. The easy way is not to get soft and think to give your flesh some more rest. No, that's the hard way. Then you got to double back to come back to try to make up for it. Go to John the 15th chapter. He said, just turn when you hear what I'm telling you. When I'm telling you, look, don't cross that line. Step back, you're too close to the line. John 15. He said, but when you listen to me and then you turn back and you step back, he said, I've got the strength right there for you because you're in obedience. There's something else about the flesh. The more you rested, he said, with the sluggard, hey, just a little sleep, and then the more the sluggard sleeps, the more he wants to sleep. And he said it's like with the sluggard in his bed. He's like the door with a squeaky door. When he turns over, okay, or he's so lazy, he'll eat some food and then have something left on his mouth and too lazy to raise his hand to his mouth. This is the generation that we're in, and you have to be on guard that you don't get caught up with this softness. The Creator's not going for the softness. He is not. He's saying, when I'm giving you a word, then listen to my word, and then here comes the strength for you to do my word. It's not for you to take it in your own mind and decide, oh, this is the way that I need to do this. Now, you can do that. You can do it any way you want, but that way is going to cost you. John the 15th chapter, let's read verses 18 to 19, and it's going to hurt. His way will not hurt. John 15, verses 18 to 19 reads.
John chapter 15 and verse 18. If the world hates you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you. Verse 19. If ye were of the world would love his own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hated you.
All right, so here are the Creator is telling those dark sayings, and these are the people that are listening to his dark sayings and doing his dark sayings. It says, the world gonna hate you. It said, if the world snare you, when you stand up and tell them, look, this generation is soft. This generation got excuses from A to Z, and then start over again, they got them from Z to A. And they can make up some real good excuses. He said, the world gonna hate you when you stand up and let them know the Creator's not going for this softness. He's not going for this new thing. And in my generation, men and women of Yahweh came to the temple every week. Whenever the door was open, this is how they did it. And this is what the Creator, it says that Yahshua was at the temple every Shabbat.
Yes.
The world, again, they think that, oh yeah, well, you know, you got to miss, well, you got to, but if it's something that they want to do, they don't miss that.
Right.
They'll drive further to go there. They'll make more preparation to go there. They'll call on the phone. They'll lay out their clothes ahead of time. It says, so now the world gonna hate you when you stand up and let them know that they are connected to the world. That they have lowered their standard, and it's a standard that the Creator is not accepting. They're in compromise. He said, so the world gonna hate you when you stand up and say that. He said, but then you know that it hated me before it hated you. Why? Because he stood up and said the same thing. Yahshua said what the Creator told him to say. This is what we're here for. He said, if you were of the world would have his own, so the world would love you. So the world doesn't like you because you're standing up, you're hooked up to the Creator and saying what he said. But because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Now, we got to make a decision. Are we going to be all right with that? But we should not be fooling ourselves thinking that, oh yeah, the world hate me, the world hate. No, you're in compromise just like the world. Now you may be a little hotter than some people, but you're still not a straight arrow. You're still not doing this thing like the Creator's telling you to. You got into softness. That's why he says we have to always check ourselves and watch who you hanging around now, because the majority of people, unless you really stay on your guard, that you're around are in softness, and they're in compromise, and they have lowered their standard to so low that all of them are crawling on the ground. And then the doctrine of demons will have people deceive themselves, thinking because they're doing a little better than somebody else, that they're up to the standard that the Creator has. But that's deception. Says, so don't be surprised if the world hates you when you stand up and tell them, look, stop being so soft. Like I said, I love my generation. Because these are men and women of Yahweh. And when the Creator said, jump, they said, how high? When the Creator said, go there, they said, let's go. And there was no time when they said, well, you know what, I don't feel well, I worked too many hours this week, or I did too much of that. Don't be soft like this generation. Don't do it. Please don't do it. Go to John 17. So if we were taught as children to pray for the whole world, we found out that the Creator's pure standard said not to pray for the whole world, because those prayers will never be answered. He just said, you are not of the world. He said, pray for those that are His people throughout the world. I remember as a child, and at the end, I would tack on and I pray for the whole world. Well, I didn't know that's what they had taught me, but now I don't say that. I pray for all of Yahweh's people throughout the world and their families and loved ones. But I don't say that prayer for the world anymore, because I just read the scripture. It said the world hates you and I, the ones that are straight arrows, the ones that are doing this thing exactly like Yahweh said. John 17, we want to read verses 16 to 17. John chapter 17 and verses 16 to 17 reads.
John chapter 17 and verse 16. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Verse 17. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth.
So here is the Savior. He keeps saying it. Talking about you and I, the ones that the Creator said the dark sayings of old to. He says they are not of the world. This is two different classifications of people. He said, even as I am not of the world, on the same side with Him, but that's against the world. He said, set them apart, sanctify them through your image, your truth. It was truth. Your debar, your word is truth. These dark sayings of old are His truth. But they don't become truth in your life or my life till we do them. Go to Revelation the 13th chapter. So the beastly system beliefs put a series of pagan days on its calendar to occur immediately when Yahweh's annual holy days end. Go to Revelation 13. They are between the last great day in the 7th month of the sacred calendar, which coordinates with September-October in the Roman calendar, and the Passover in the 1st month of the sacred calendar, which coordinates with March and April in the Roman calendar. Revelation 13. So this was not an accident that these days have been set up this way, where they're concentrated right when the Creator's yearly holy days end for the year, until about 6 months down the road. It was not an accident, but a demonic attack. Revelation 13, verses 1 to 3.
Revelations chapter 13 and verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority.
That's the mighty for His word. So here is Yachanan, and he's seeing this vision, and what this vision represents is just, excuse me, the Caucasian world ruling empires. But you know, we've been talking about this beastly belief system. Well, that's what it's talking about, the Babylonian belief system. Now, it didn't just start with the Romans, it actually started with man, period. But now it's been perfected, and now in the latter days, here is Yachanan. He's looking at these Roman Empire, went from Babylon to Medo-Persia to the Greeks and to the Romans. He said, I stood upon the sand of the sea, saw a beast rise up out of the sea. Remember, this is a beast system of beliefs. having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horn 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. So whenever you see blasphemy, now it's talking about this something that's coming against their creator. Said the beast which I saw was like a leopard, talking about the Greek Empire, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, I believe that's the Medo-Persians, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, that's the Caucasian Babylonian Empire, and the dragon, and this is talking about the devil, gave him his mashal, his power, and his seat, and great tukal, or authority. All right, so we see that's what's behind this beastly belief system. Why? Because it's coming up against, it's trying to be a substitute for what the Creator has said in his dark sayings of old in his word. All right, verse 3.
Verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast.
All right, now it says, I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to my vet, and his Mavet wound was healed. So this was when the Roman Empire looked like it went down, but it never really totally went down. And it said, all the world wondered after the beast. So this beast system, all the world was wondering after the beast. So the Creator's dark sayings of old reveal the demonic attack, this concentrated season of pagan days, right when Yahweh's holy days end, is specifically for all the world. For them, number 2, to wonder after it. And number 3, to wonder after the beast. Let's go to 3 John, the 1st chapter. 3 John, the 1st chapter. So the demonic attack with these concentrated paganism, bunch of pagan days. Got Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. You got Valentine's Day. Packing them in. 3 John, 1st chapter. And we want to read verses 3 to 6. So it is for all the world to wonder after the beast. We're going to look at this wonder after in just a moment. 3 John 1, 3 to 6, please.
3 John chapter 1 and verse 3. For I rejoiced greatly when the brethren came and testified of the truth that is in thee, even as thou walkest in the truth.
Now here is where the Creator, he uttered these dark sayings of old, but he said this is something that you live out. This is not something that you just read. This is something that you walk out. This is something that you become. This is who you are. He said, for I smacked greatly when Ha'at came and testified of Ha'emet, that is in you and I, even as thou walkest in Ha'emet, in the truth. This is your lifestyle. Nothing overrides this. You don't get into this soft thing where every now and then you think you got to out. Or every now and then you want to put that on the back burner. And that's why that is an occasion to rejoice. When you see somebody that's got that straight arrow spirit that the Ruach put in them. And then they're not fighting against something so they can be soft and then have a out to where they can miss, or to where they can not do things the way that the Creator is telling them. When he sends that reproof where they don't adhere to that reproof and do better. He said, I rejoice greatly when the brethren came and testified of the truth that is in you and me. You can see the truth in people. Doesn't matter what their mouth says. Look at them. Look at them. Where are they at every Shabbat? What are they doing every Shabbat? Did they pour out all their meat and drink offerings to the gig, the 40-hour work week? And then they give that soft answer and then think that that's supposed to, Yahweh's supposed to accept that? It's time for great rejoicing when you look at people and you see that they're doing it the way Yahweh said do it. Verse 4.
Verse 4. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth.
And the longer that you're following Yahweh and the longer that you hear his voice and you hear those dark sayings of old, you will have no greater simcha than to hear and to see Yahweh's people walking in truth. Because there's so many that are not. So many that are in compromise. So many that are living at a lower standard than the Creator desires. Have lowered the bar. I'm talking about limbo. I mean, they really lowered the bar. But the Creator didn't. He's got the same standard. Verse 5.
Verse 5. Beloved, thou doest faithfully whatsoever thou doest to the brethren and to strangers. Verse 6. Which have borne witness of my charity before the congregation, whom if thou bring forward on the journey after a godly sort, thou shalt do well.
It says, beloved. He's talking to us. Excuse me. Thou doest in me now whatsoever thou doest to Ha'ah and to strangers. So people are looking at you and I. And people take note when you've been diligent about something and then when you don't do it. And they magnify that because that's how a soft world does it. They're just looking to something for something to make you be like them. It says, whatever you do, do it faithfully in front of the brothers and sisters and to strangers, which have borne witness of your love before the temple. They've been looking at you. And now they see you softening up. Now they see you watching, hanging out with people that have lowered the standard. The Creator has not. It says, whom if you bring forward on their journey after a righteous sword. How are you going to bring them forth on their journey? Every time the temple door opens, you're right there. Whatever Yahweh tells you to do, you're doing it. You're not pouring out your meat and drink offerings during the 40-hour work week and then you got nothing. You're tapped out when it's time to obey the command to come to the temple. That's bringing them forward after a righteous sword. He said, you'll do well if you're doing that. Why? Because there's so few people to do it. Many are called, but few are chosen. With Ezekiel, the 20th chapter. So hearing our Creator's dark sayings made this concentrated season of pagan days being a demonic attack crystal clear. No doubt about it. No doubt. This was a scheme. This was a plan of the enemy. Softening up the soldiers in the Creator's army. Make no mistake about it. It's a scheme. Ezekiel 20. Just like somebody had a little jackknife and they're carving a piece of wood trying to make it into something. You hang around these people that's in compromise and they're just chipping away a little piece of wood, chipping away a little piece of wood, chipping away a little piece of wood from you, chipping away. And all of a sudden, oh. See, the devil doesn't do just one big giant attack. He does a little chipping away. Hearing the Creator's dark sayings made this concentrated seeking of pagan days being a demonic attack crystal clear. Ezekiel 20, we want to read verses 32 to 33, please. Ezekiel 20, verses 32 to 33. Read.
Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 32. Verse 32. And that which cometh into your mind shall not be at all, that ye say, we will be as the heathen, as the families of the countries, to serve wood and stone. Verse 33. As I live, saith Yahweh Elohim, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you.
All right, here's the Creator. He's making his position very clear, crystal clear. He said, and that which cometh into your your mind, shall not be at all. What's he saying? People are saying in their mind that you, Amar, we will be as the heathen, as the mishpachah of the countries. Excuse me. To ebony, wood, and stone. Yeah, we're going to be like everybody else. Yeah, you don't have to just come to the temple every week. Yahweh understand. You got this to do and that to do. You really work hard this week, or when you will. He said, that which come into your mind, he said, it's not, he's not even going for a little bit. He said, not at all. You saying you're going to be like the heathen, as the families of the country to serve wood and stone. He said, look, I'm real. I'm the real deal. I'm not fake. I'm telling you what I want. I'm telling you what I said. And I'm telling you what I mean. And he's not taking it back. And he's not softening up on it. He says, as I Kayah, he said, he lives, Amar Yahweh Elohim, surely with a mighty hand. He said, now I'm going to bring that rod of correction. With a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out, he said, I'm going to rule over you. He is the ruler. He said, I'm going to rule over you. You can do it the hard way or you can do it the easy way. Revelation 13. That's why the man said, hey, I rejoiced greatly when I heard the brethren was walking in the truth. People tell you, yeah, glory, 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 hallelujah, love me some Yahweh, love me some Yahshua. And then you look at them, soft. Yahweh help them. Revelation 13 and verse 3.
Revelations chapter 13 and verse 3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast.
All right, so we had read this earlier, but now we're just going to look at this, how all the world wondered after the beast. So what is all the world? All means that none of the world is left out. So when the Creator said, you are not of the world, he said, no, the world hates you. Why does it hate you and me? Because we straight arrows for Yahweh. Because we're doing this thing the way Yahweh said. Because we're not looking for some soft way, or we're not looking for some kind of excuse or some kind of something to where we can compromise or we can lower the standard. So that means none of the world is left out. So the English words the world in this verse in the Greek refers to the inhabited earth, the abode of men and animals, the earth as a whole, and the earth as opposed to the heavens. Go to Matthew the 5th chapter. So during the concentration of pagan days, the wise run into annoyance alongside the world and those accepting standards lower than the Creator desires. See, you'll annoy them and they will annoy you. And they want you to join in, and they want you to put an ornament on the Christmas tree, and they want you to come to the Halloween party for adults. And they want you to buy the candy and hand out candy when the children knock on your door. So during this season, the wise run into annoyance, being alongside the world as they're following this standard alongside the world, and those that have lowered their standard, that are in compromise, accepting standards lower than the Creator desires. Matthew 5, let's read verses 10 to 12, please.
Matthew chapter 5 and verse 10. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
All right, so he said, now, this is what's going to happen to you and I. And the world tries to put a fire under you, and those that have lowered the standard, lower than what the Creator desires, they want you to come down there with them. And in their lunacy, they think that the Creator, if enough people go down to that lower standard, then the Creator will change His standard. No, it's just going to be more people going to the lake of fire, that's all. He said, blessed are they, barak are they which are persecuted for Sadaqah's sake, for there is Hamalkuth of Shemayim. So we headed to the kingdom. We understand we're headed to the kingdom. We understand the week of Shabbat is our touch point. Just letting us know it's like those mile markers when you're on the expressway. And so every Shabbat, we just touch point. Matter of fact, we do 2 touch points, Friday night, Saturday during the day. And just do it every week. And then the yearly ones do the same thing, touch point, headed to the kingdom. All right? But we understand we're blessed. But you're going to be persecuted because you live in, like the Ruach keeps saying, this soft world. People want to make them those good excuses and just sound so lovely and so kind. And then think that, no, you just don't understand who you are. You just don't understand what the Creator is doing with you. You don't understand what your position is in the world. That's all. Verse 11.